I am more in love with crop circles than ever before, and I'm more convinced that they're all man-made than ever before. But don't be sad. A connection with ancient Bronze Age art suggests that being human is actually magical. So maybe these balls of light circle makers are just ancient priests and shamans projecting their consciousness forward in time to where they're needed most. This video explains the crop circle, or rather square, found on Normanton Down Barrows near Stonehenge, reported on July 14th. This crop circle taught me about the razor's edge between fantasy and reality, and waking and dreaming. Are crop circles made by balls of light plasma vortices, or are they made by humans? Is there a spectrum between true crop circles and merely human-made hoaxes? The Stonehenge Quaternity perfectly relates to its environment, just as the previous Stonehenge pentagram did. Both work with the natural environment. Both mirror it. They do not copy it exactly, rather they harmonize with it. The design of the crop circle is a new theme in this season. The previous designs readily accepted my framework based on the bisection and golden section of the Vesica Pisces, which I sometimes refer to as the mandala of the symmetry of rationality and irrationality. The Stonehenge Quaternity ultimately accepted my framework, but it required a strange shift of orientation. I started the initial divisions on a horizontal line, then continued the next phase at 45 degrees. My system produced approximate designs. Geometry of Crop Circle's Facebook page presented their analysis of the design. They introduced the concept of the silver mean and the sacred cut, which I had not yet studied. It is absolutely clear to me that this design is about the silver mean and not the golden ratio, even though you can establish relationships through the ruler and compass with the golden ratio and the silver mean. The design was quite easy, but a geometric association delayed my geometric presentation. A collaborator sent me an image of the Bush Barrow Lozenge, which is a piece of Bronze Age art that was discovered in the burial mound near Stonehenge and the recent crop circle. It seems that all of the fields surrounding Stonehenge are riddled with circular burial mounds that may contain similar artifacts. I saw a drawing of the lozenge as if it were a crop circle. It felt to me to be made in the same language, perhaps in a slightly different dialect. Interestingly, it is famous for its unique shape that aligns to where the sun rises on the solstices at Stonehenge. Its designer must have had an abstract understanding of their place in the cosmos. Its designer recognized a mathematical theme in nature, connected it with sacred geometric forms like the hexagon, and then expressed that theme in creative ways. I recognize the designer of this lozenge as a spiritual ancestor who holds magical sway over the balls of light circle makers and the unconscious drives of the hoaxers. It is clear that whoever placed Stonehenge understood geometry in its truest and most ancient senses. Now, I'm not going to show you a video of the geometric drawing, even though I will show you my drawing, which has a few errors. When I did the drawing, my mind and spirit connected with an image of a far ancestor. The geometry is as potent today as back then, and it would have been less visible back then. I get the feeling that the ancestor who designed this lozenge understood the balance between revelation and mystery. The juxtaposition of a contemporary crop circle and the ancient gold lozenge made me realize one important fact. Humanity is absolutely capable of every single geometric feat we see on the planet, the lozenge, Stonehenge, and every single crop circle, if only through the magical sway of the ancestors upon the balls of light circle makers. I'm enchanted by the notion of a priesthood of renegade artists who are so inspired by these geometry that they orchestrate silent, hidden dances in grain fields, worshiping the secret order of the cosmos and making it known through mystery, which is revealed through the movements of these balls of light circle makers. It brings me hope to know that some hoaxer out there is perfecting their pole vault, both of the golden ratio and of the silver mean variety, so that they can get to different spots of the of the design without leaving footprints. This crop circle brought me to the work of Stuart Anthony, a crop circle scientist evaluating crop circle evidence and investigating if some are authentic. His story intersects with BLT research, which put out most of the scientific hypotheses related to crop circles, such as the notion that the crops are bent using energy like microwaves. I'm still processing all of his information, but recognize his journey as similar to my own with alien abduction. The UFO abduction syndrome, aka alien abduction from the 1990s, was defined by dreams and hypnosis, but none of the researchers were trained in those fields. Not even John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist, was trained effectively with dreams and hypnosis. He was just as bad as Sigmund Freud, claiming that everything was a complex. John Mack claimed everything was abduction, when in reality, it was mostly just sleep paralysis. Similarly, BLT research employs scientists with no direct experience working with crops. Both abduction and crop circle researchers came to pseudoscientific conclusions in the 1990s that eclipses any authentic scientific research into the phenomenon today. I'm going to register a maybe scientific hypothesis with you, which is just a hypothesis and maybe not what I think or believe at all. Maybe this is just a pedagogical claim, like how Galathog, the gray alien from my dreams, told me that he implanted a tracking chip in Bud Hopkins, a famous abduction researcher. If you thought crop circles were strange, check out anomalous body marks presented as evidence for space alien abduction. Here is the hypothesis. All crop circles are human-made. There's a secret priesthood that communicates through geometrically sustained proto-telepathy, sort of like a hive mind. Just as bees build hexagonal hives that adapt to the environment, so too does the secret priesthood build these temporary temples in tune with the physical and spiritual environment. While this may seem disappointingly mundane, I predict that there are anomalous psychic effects caused by these bizarre geometric rituals. If you can get a dozen people to essentially dance according to geometric lines in tune with natural environment and ancestral human shamanism, you too may be able to summon balls of light that can microwave fields and leave recordings for Dr. Stephen Greer to inspire the world to connect with aliens through CE5 or human-initiated contact experiences. That's another story, but worth mentioning in this one. Want to know how I will test my hypothesis? It won't be through science. I'm testing its validity in its ability to explain or interpret statements made by people who have spent years researching crop circles, like Stuart Anthony. I also watched a video with Alan Brown, who uncovered square circles in crop circle formations. Now, I don't know much about the debate between hoax or real, authentic or pseudoscience. And I don't know much about Alan Brown, but I do know that the way Alan Brown spoke informs the way I speak to you now. It made me aware of the balance between revelation and mystery. So where are we at now? I know that there's essentially a secret priesthood who loves geometry and nature, who has been active since the Bronze Age. They perform midnight choreographies to place the circles. This is my message to you. I know you make these circles with the same instincts that my 9-year-old eats sand, but my 2.5-year-old draws lines in the sand and calls them trails. If this is the case, then no amount of scientific tests will prove or disprove the hypothesis, but a human action might bring some insight. One of the most human actions is sharing a story. I'm going to share with you an early experience that was quite formative for me. My family shifted from a Presbyterian to Baptist church at the end of elementary school. We went from being a mildly Christian household to fire and brimstone in less than 3 years. In the transition, we went to many churches. One of them was a tabernacle of sorts. They practiced speaking in tongues. I remember hearing a strange language, then hearing its translation. I thought that a spirit truly came into the speaker, which guided both the strange words through their tongue and their translation through another member of the congregation. I became terrified because the spirit said things that only God could say, which would mean that either the spirit was deceiving us and therefore an evil spirit, or else God was truly in our presence. You circle-making midnight dancers have taught me about balance, the balance between human-made and nature, between mind and matter, between revelation and mystery, and therefore I will balance my interpretation of your geometric glossolalia with an expression of Enochian language, which some might call a stellar glossolalia, a galactic glossolalia, and others might call the true language of angels. Zakar od zamran odo kerkle ke azurje labzerd noko madhoa theada.